Well, right. We gotta, establish boundaries. No limit is what I say.
You're on the right show. Definitely on the right show. I just had your Google search history scraped. I scraped all that data, scraped your Twitter data.
1 second.
Just pulled everything I could.
I didn't catch that.
No, I said I was just scraping the internet, looking online for you, trying to find out everything I could, make sure this was a comprehensive, all-encompassing interview.
Well, I hope you only found good things.
I did. I kept Safe Search on, so
That's good.
I assume that took away all your, all your work with bad taste or that was poorly planned at the time.
Well, the thing is that, I went to art school. Things are a little different there. I'm an educator, or was. I was a teacher for 9 years. I quit. But the thing is like the pinnacle of art education, as you might know, is...
Surprise? Is it a surprise?
Oh, is this...
We're going to tell you the pinnacle of art education.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. Joe, thank you for being here for the 33rd episode.
Oh,
third
lucky
episode.
Number 33. I like that.
It's 2 3s, but it's all 3s. So
Yes, doble tres.
But you gave us an excellent little overview as to what we're looking forward to for the next hour. You mentioned being in art education.
Yeah, well, I didn't expect to start off this, graphic. Graphic can be used in a lot of ways. As an artist, graphic can mean, clean lines, like graphic design.
Yeah.
Very tasteful. But I think it's ironic that, the corporate world aspires for, very graphic work. I'm interested in different type of graphic work. No,
You're using graphic.
I'm kidding.
I got this book on how to do graphic illustrations, on how to do. It was more a book on what were comic books. I forget Bill something. I forget what this gentleman's name is. Probably the most famous.
Bill Maher.
It's Bill Maher. He's the most famous comic book artist. No, he actually specifically hates Marvel, doesn't he? He's like
new rule. If you gotta draw a guy with a face, make sure the eyes are halfway down the head.
But there is something about how you use graphics and how you use depictions of yourself, because one thing I'll just say from this book, I'm doing a terrible job summarizing it, but the less facial features you had, it's the easier it was for you to project your own thoughts and feelings on the depiction, maybe the character that you saw. So even now, you wearing sunglasses, bandana, obviously this was a choice as an artist for the viewers to project themselves on you, on your humanity.
That's true. I put hours into this. Actually, it's more my whole look. I like to think of it as an aura, really. But when you think about it, it's all the hard work I put in over the 6-7 months of quarantine, living at home, not taking care of myself.
Sounds like more of an era than an aura. Yeah. At this point, it sounds looking at the COVID considerations.
Exactly. It's a generational shift, and as we kind of talked about before, it's like the Great Depression, like how dapper these people looked in breadlines. That's my aspiration. The Depression chic.
That's right.
But
yeah, you told me you were looking up old-timey photos, and the hats were the most striking element of everyone's personal wardrobe, right?
Well, yeah,
British people still had the hats thing going on, so it's not that all cultures have stopped with hats.
Right. I think it's just interesting that, it always goes to, I think like now hats are quaint, they're just kind of like, oh, that's an interesting, you're from LA or you're not self-aware.
I got you.
Like, there's kind of I like, for example, though, like there are certain things that have been taken on their own form, like the fedora. I don't think it can ever recover.
It's not. Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. And some things are just meant to be that way. I think if a whole online culture and what's basically one online joke can just take a whole hat style in the name of fedora, I think it wasn't good enough to begin with. I think that maybe it needed to become that joke.
Well,
I recently just reworked. I think I heard it with sunglasses originally, but I used it with hats. You mentioned the LA connection. People wear hats.
Oh yeah,
quaint. The only people who wear hats indoors are bald people and assholes.
Indoors, like
Yeah.
Well, it like
Maybe that's my Midwest upbringing. I feel like you're not allowed to wear a hat
Oh,
inside.
okay,
Like,
so this is
that's a problem if you're wearing a hat
Oh,
inside.
Mr. Manners over here. Like, okay, yeah, no hat at the table, son. Come on.
That's
You know?
why. That's why I had to switch the podcast outside. Is because people wanted to start wearing hats in the summer. I'm like, I can't do this thing.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Exactly. Well, I mean, I understand that. I think it's, but even just conversations like my brother in particular, like, what's so funny
Shout out
is
Tom.
that, yeah, shout out to my brother Tom. He's killing it right now, you know. But the one thing that's kind of the universal between him and I, and then even like our extended friend group, is we all have the same like new era Cubs hat. Like it's the same one. It's not even like any of the, you know, special edition ones. It's just we all end up showing up, especially nowadays. We have longer hair. And now it's like we all show up as a crew. But what's funny about this is like I've never had the attention span to watch a full baseball game. You know what I mean? And the stats part is like, what? You want me to become a fan of like doing math homework? Like, I mean, I get that it's a thing, you know, but the thing is like what's interesting to me is because I wear this hat so often, there's people in my building that are just being like, yeah, man, how about them Cubs, man? I know you're a really big fan. You know, I'm just like, yo, man, my favorite color is blue, okay?
Not exactly the same thing.
Right.
No, it's funny you said it's a new era type specifically because I feel like I grew up around a similar type of gentleman that had a Cubs hat on, and I feel like it wasn't the new era style. It was more of like a curved bill. It was more that like textured canvas material. It was a little bit more rough and tumble. The new era is almost like stepping out on the town. That's the nice version. That's like the tuxedo.
It's
Cubs
wool.
hat.
It's wool, man. I mean, that's classy. But what I will say about this, like when you talk about like texture and when it comes to hats, like I used to have, oh man, this Cubs hat was the best, and it was like in our collection, and like on the staircase down to the basement in our house, we have this hat rack, and it's just piled full of everything from our like little league team, you know, Downers Grove baseball, little league with the puffy front, you know, and just like I hate wearing this hat, it sucks, you know. And then everything that every member of my family's collected over the years. Now, there were a couple choice ones.
That made it down to the basement.
Right, but they're like...
Because I'm assuming a certain echelon of hat would not start descending down that basement staircase. Is that correct?
Well, the ones... It's less about, like, there's no curation scheme. Like, it's an unadulterated, like, hoarder method. But to the point where, you know, walking down the stairs, you're bound to knock off at least 2 hats. And the rule is if you knock off just one, you got to wear it for a full day.
Oh, shit.
No, I'm kidding. But my point is there's just so many, you'll knock them off walking down into the basement. But so there was this one hat, and it was at the bottom of one of those racks. It was a snapback. Okay. Chicago Cubs, not traditional labeling. It wrote out in like 2 lines, you know, Chicago Cubs, but, you know, of course.
Chicago spelled wrong.
Right. But get this. The hat was made of blue corduroy.
Ooh.
Dude, this thing...
That has to make a resurgence at some point.
Oh, my God. I mean, it's basically... If you combine like kind of the hipster aesthetic with like a train conductor hat, you know what I mean? It was incredible, but it got stolen. It was that good. You know
Oh
what I
God,
mean?
it got robbed. I could see that.
Yeah.
You know, I think you're onto something with this texture, specifically corduroy. I think I'm gonna call it now. Toyota is gonna start releasing all 2022 Corollas and up with a brown corduroy. With a black corduroy, I think they're going to switch. You know, they're going to need something.
Yeah.
In that year for marketing, obviously the Corona PPP dollars will have been spent up.
Yeah.
All the different relief bills that will have been spent,
Yeah.
and they're going to have to do something extreme, the likes of which has not been seen since I guess some 1990s blue corduroy
I
Cubs
did
hat
see
in
a
your house.
couple leaked images, and actually you can do that as kind of the seat and the interior, but they're also doing a shag carpet
Really?
package. Yeah.
You see, I kind of feel like we're in the 1960s, talking about eras earlier. This is a new era. Yeah. I kind of feel like we need to go into the 1970s now. And this shag carpet corduroy thing, this could be the linchpin.
Yeah.
This could be how we get there.
You know, well, so we talked a little bit briefly about music.
Yeah.
I became aware that you're not a Dan fan, Steely Dan.
I'm at least unknowledgeable about Steely Dan.
I guess what I'm trying to say.
I'm not trying to cast judgment.
I mean, it'd be like, if I can give a comparison, it's like, you know, have you watched Game of Thrones or read the book? You know what I mean? Like, Steely Dan is like reading the book of being a music fan. You know what I mean? The book's much better type of thing. So, But
because they're supposed to be, what I've heard about them is they're all individually excellent musicians, right? They're highly technical in how they can execute it. Like 311, I don't know, would that be the modern comparison to Stevie Dan? Like they're all supposed to be good musicians on their own, but people still seem to hate them for some reason.
So, well, 311 again.
We've talked about 311 on this pod before.
You know what? I mean, 311 was a conspiracy. But I mean, I think when you think about the like 311, I think is so. I don't know if I'm gonna use a big word that I'm not certain on the meaning, but anachronistic. Does that mean that like it's like so of its time that it like, you know what I'm saying? Is that what it means?
Anachronistic can be out of time. So what era is 311 supposed to be from? When would they be anachronistic?
So I
not
for me
anachronistic.
it was like, to describe my experience with 311 is like my parents didn't let me listen to, you know, I wanted the Chumbawamba CD. You know what I mean? And this was at
thump wubbing? What the fuck is that called?
Tubbo Fubeyes or no,
it's
that
some
was
sort of string of consonants that's unmemorable on a
tub
podcast.
Thumping, yeah.
Tub thumping.
But
I wanted to see how much you really wanted that thing. So I was, little did you know, I did some Chumbawamba research before you came over.
Well, so this is the thing, is it was like maybe, you know, just like where I was mentally, you know, I had maybe the Christmas before I figured out Santa wasn't, I don't know if we can say this on this podcast, but
we're out in terms of our Santa beliefs and opinions at this point.
All
so
right.
Santa is not
real.
He's not real.
So, but at this point I was, you know, I had made the discovery, but I was convinced for like another year that like, oh, mom and dad just helped Santa out. Santa brought some things, but they just added on because they were just, you know, generous.
Santa's going through a hard time.
Right. Yeah.
He's in
tighten his purse strings a little bit. But, you know, so
that's why he switched from actually a corduroy to a velvet suit, is because the corduroy was getting trashed and kept getting stolen, different houses.
Yeah.
So he had to switch to a red velvet at some point just to save money.
Yeah, you know.
Just to save dollars.
So, well, anyway, so I'd asked for this Chumbawamba CD, and I was just like, oh, man. I mean, everybody loved that song, you know. I Get Knocked Down.
Anyone who pissed the night away, yeah, for sure.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, of course I knew what they were talking about at that age. But the thing is like, I remember, you know, I asked, and I was like, oh, maybe Santa probably won't get it for me, but, you know, mom and dad might add that to it. So I remember going, you know, my dad has always kind of worked from home partially, so he has like an office. I remember going into his like office closet for something, I can't remember what it was, but of course I find Chumbawamba CD. It's there, and it had already been opened. I was just like, oh shit.
Wait. So I remember when CDs came in packaging. When you say already been opened, you mean the
cellophane.
Cellophane's gone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times there was a sticker on the CD too. Did you check the sticker? Could you look at the disc itself?
Well, so that's the thing though. It was like, you had to slit the sticker. It was slit, right?
Your dad was listening to this shit.
Yeah. Well, so this is the thing though, is I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm getting Chumbawamba for Christmas. So I just like shut up about it, and I'm just like, I am so pumped. You know, thinking, man, this is going to be a great stocking stuffer. I'm going to just like, that's the first thing I'm going to look at, you know. And then...
Did you have a Discman? Like, could you listen to this personally, or would you have to put this on a family stereo? Like, did your parents realize they were buying this for them to also listen to, or did you have an option at this era?
Yeah, I think it was still before, you know, I mean, those personal CD players were still very expensive, you know.
No, they were. That's why I'm asking.
No,
I want to know what your parents were signing themselves up for. If it was going to be boombox on the reg or what.
And so that could probably enter into like me trying to understand this. But of course, Christmas Day rolls around, you know, wake up super early, you know, and run. We have like the stockings like along the staircase that are just like
red
there.
corduroy.
I run and
gorgeous
I'm like,
red corduroy.
Yeah, exactly.
Gorgeous stocking.
Yeah. I just feel around. I'm like, I didn't even look in there. I just feel it. I'm like, I could feel a CD in there.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing. I'm just like, shit. You know, there's a bunch of stupid Reese's in there or something. Candy. I'm like, come on. You know, so I pop a Reese's. I run downstairs and
got to stay level. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it was just everything. Like, I mean, it was very impressive spread of gifts that I was very grateful for. But I remember turning over every piece of wrapping paper, every empty box. I was like, there is no Chumbawamba here.
Damn.
Like, and so I just remember it took me like a year or two to like bring it up. I was like, hey.
No way. 700 days later?
Yeah. I mean, but I'm still, you know, not old enough. But apparently they had bought it, looked through the lyrics, and were like, nope.
fucking fascinating. I kind of got there before you wanted to. I was so curious. I'm like, did they listen to this being like, what kind of trash we're gonna give our child on Christmas morning, the Christiest of all Christian holidays, you know?
That's very true. It's practically smut. You know
Chumbawamba.
Yeah.
Highly graphic lyrical content,
exactly.
to my understanding. Can you name a single other song that they've ever done besides that one?
No, but
did you ever get the CD afterwards, in spite of your parents, to somehow prove to yourself and to them, obviously, that you were a man?
no, I kind of like adopted the strategy of like going to Dan's house down the street and listening to Blink-182 and Jay-Z, and you know, and I would like hear Adam's song on, you know, Enema of the State and be like, this song's sad, but it's good, you know, I like it, you know.
It could have saved you then. As opposed to being a Steely Dan fan, you might be a Foreigner fan or a Styx fan at this point.
So
if you didn't get deprived at this certain age.
So, big picture, because this is the thing, is like whenever I would ask about this music, my mom would always send me into the basement, say, you know, go take a look at my records. And it would be like The Who, Quadrophenia, Who's Next, you know. And then my dad's collection was all like old soul and like R&B. I mean, it was like, talk about dirty though. Like there was like some Al Green and some Barry White. I mean, one of the albums is called Sheet Music, and it's a bed where the sheets are printed with music notes. I
was hoping you were going to say you opened a double LP and they were halfway through rolling a joint through one of them. You know, it still had some dried up bud on the bottom.
Right, so I realized that it was not only like a censorship thing, it was more about taste, which for that I'm thankful. You know what I mean? I was a big Who fan, and that really changed my life and shaped my career as a guitarist, you know. And
well, you ended, like, as you mentioned, you ended up going to art school, and if not, you probably would have ended up in graphic design, in a graphic design program, a certificate program, even, not even a full degree course, right?
Well, that's true. I mean, essentially, yeah. Like, I mean, and that's the thing, is because, you know, getting a BFA is such a serious degree, you know, very technical.
Right. But you need mentors, you need religious figures, you need someone to guide you.
You need a patron, you know, more than anything. You know, patron saint's not going to cut it. You know.
That's right. You got to marry well, or you got to
have a trust fund. Yeah.
Yeah, that helps. I was going to say something like that wouldn't hurt. Definitely wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
I find it amazing that you had a second hat story before the cameras were even on. You told me a funny straw hat story, vacation hat story. So you had multiple hat stories.
Yeah, like I said, it's a new era, and I think. Like yokel chic, or, you know, something. I think there's something in the mix. Like, I literally had the thought of like, man, should I buy, you know, not like baggy jeans, like, you know, Lee pipes or something like, or Jenkos.
Lee pipe fucking. Yeah. I had a pair of Lee pipes. That's terrible. I still wear jean shorts unironically to this day, by the way. Yeah, still do constantly. Not constantly, consistently.
What surprises me about jean shorts, right, is that it's turned into this like pejorative of like, oh, nice jorts.
Talk about yokel, chic or whatever.
Right, but this is the thing, is like, you know, that's not yokel. That's just like dadhangout.com stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's just like, I'm wearing shorts today. But see, this is what's ironic to me is that the hipster paradigm has accepted cutoffs. Cutoffs are different than shorts.
Do you think so?
Well, I mean, for years I wore cutoffs with, you know, no bombast, you know, and witnessed multiple people, you know, and you know what I mean? Like, and I would actually look forward to the summer, like you get that pair of Levi's that you don't blow out the crotch in, and you're like, all right, time to cut these babies off. You know what I mean?
I blow out the knees and the ass on my jeans first. So I've never done the crotch first. Once jumping a fence, but it was unrelated to my normal thrusting and crouching activities.
Thrusting? This is in public, or?
Well, a pair of shorts, yeah. Oh. Or a pair of jeans, a pair of Levi's at least. That's, you know, true. Why wear 511s if you're not going to try to get someone to 69, you know? If I had
yeah, good old-fashioned jean jam.
Yeah.
Just like high school, you know?
Thank you for using the content from the website, by the way, the Jam Journal branding. Thank you for making it all jam-based.
Well,
your jean jams can be found now at the Never Ending Becoming website. Find them now.
Yeah, well, oh man,
we got to talk about your YouTube channel, by the way, specifically what you're working on creating. But let's finish talking about all the ways and times that you've blown out the crotch of your jean shorts before summers.
The first time I blew up, well, see, this is the thing. It's like a crucial evolution. We talked about image of being an artist. I remember, like, I had I didn't do like a study abroad in Europe or something because I was pretentious, So
You did it in Asia.
no, I did it in New York. So I went to like Parsons. It's funny. Parsons is like the pinnacle like art school, one of them in New York. And I went for the summer, but I put that on my resume. I can't tell you how many interviews have been like, "Oh, you went to Parsons School of Design?" I'm like, I did, yes, for 1 month in the summer.
Name recognition is a huge thing. I mean, trumping in the office is the number one proof of that thing.
Yeah, but I think what's interesting about, I'm kind of losing the thread here.
You went to school in New York for the summer.
Yeah, I mean, so I came back from that. I think I was working at a Starbucks that year, and I saw some guy come in wearing skinny jeans. The only time I had worn skinny jeans prior to that was an accident when I was 16. I was working at a Subway. First day at work, I show up.
Pipes were big, I think, closer than skinny jeans at this point. When you were 16,
right.
it was way more of a large diameter time, just to put things in context.
Oh, yeah.
It was not a small diameter, not a close-fitting jean era.
Yeah, people used to brag about, like, this is a 27-inch crown on these jeans. The crown, for your example, is, like, the base. And, like, the more frayed, the better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
oh, my God.
Anyway, so I show up the first day at work. My boss, Debbie's like, did you forget something? I'm like, what? She's like, you have to wear black pants at Subway, because I was wearing, my
Subway. You
khakis.
said Starbucks, so you went from Starbucks to Subway.
Well, this is even farther before, right?
Okay, I'm getting lost here.
So okay,
you're at Subway. So you did not wear black pants to work.
Okay, let me just clarify. So when I was working at Starbucks in college, after going to New York, I saw this guy come in with black skinny jeans. I was like, yo, those look actually pretty tight. No pun intended, but like.
Good.
It was good. Translation. Sick,
Hot, wicked, nice, cool.
Right.
Badass.
And I remember, like, specifically, it was like he had, like, some cuffs, and then he had, like, colored socks underneath, some Vans. I was like...
This is today. This is last year or 2 years ago, yeah.
Right. But, so, if you back up maybe a couple years, my first job at Subway, I show up without the required black pants. So I call my mom on the cell phone that me and my sister shared. I was like, hey, I need some black pants. She's like, okay. I'll go run to Kohl's, and I'll get you some black pants.
Been a Kohl's man myself. Nice.
Yeah. The Kohl's Bucks or whatever, And so she comes in, and she's just like, I'm sorry, they didn't have anything but these. And she pulls out what at the time looked like, pantyhose or something. It was just like these fucking pencil thin, black jeans. And I had to cram into these things,
It's like, Mom, did you spray paint 2 Magnum condoms black and stitch them together?
Yeah. But the ironic part is, like, I wore them all summer. You know what I mean? I just looked like a kid on a Hot Topic,
I was trying to think of the different stores back then. I never went to Hot Topic, but there were some of those pseudo-goth retailers at the time.
Sure, yeah.
That weren't quite Forever 21. They were, I don't know, Forever Emo and 14 was the equivalent of what they were, basically.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then there was a Spencer's Gifts. Have you ever been in one of those?
Sure, yeah.
But, like, I remember, like, thinking, like, oh, man, that store's awesome. But I didn't realize that, like, they have, like, the little bead curtain in the back, and there's, like, an adult section.
Yeah.
And that's, like, how is that legal? You know what I mean? It's like you basically pull children in the front,
Yeah.
and they're just like, oh, man, fart jokes, big poopy T-shirts, and then it's just like, oh, what's back there? Right? I don't know. I just think there's something off about that.
I grew up with the black light, so I was always so enamored with the black light section that all the dildos on this side of the Mississippi couldn't even pull me over in that direction. There was nothing that could bring me to the other side of that bead. Plus, I also, for some reason, I think disliked hippies growing up.
Really?
And I had, like, grandparents, who had beaded curtains, who had beaded, like, entryways for their houses.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't hate my family on that side. It's getting complicated now, mixing different elements here. But I always had very specific feelings about beads. So talk about something straight out of 60s, 70s. We're going to be walking through our the present to the corduroy future with a beaded hallway. There's no doubt about it.
Honestly, like, I feel like the first thing I do if I ever acquire enough capital to own a house, I'm going to replace, like, there's going to be this ornate, like, San Francisco style stained glass, but it's going to say, like, Jefferson Airplane. You know what I mean? And, like,
and then you'll get wooden beads for the doorways.
Right,
then that'll be the tasteful move to show people you have class. Maybe a mahogany.
I'm going to repurpose one of those beaded seat covers from an old taxi You know what I mean? And just kind of
Dad's first car had that for sure. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and that's a serious thing. I mean, like trigger point massage, they were ahead of their time. You know, you pay $100 for that now.
You pay $100 for what a $48 beaded seat cushion could do for you back then.
Yeah.
What do you think made that skinny ass pair of black pants that you wore to Subway so special? Is it that they defied your expectations? Is it that you kind of were at the beginning of a trend where you were wearing tighter pants when most people were wearing those pipes? What did it for you exactly?
Well, I think it was just, you know, and this can kind of be perceived as controversial. I think it was more of like, ironically, I did that out of corporate compliance. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, you know what? This is how, you know, profits are really just stolen wages. I made that connection at 16. You know, not really, but
That's funny. I had a strict dress code. I worked at Abercrombie and Fitch when I was 18 years old.
you got a job. I mean, you are like, you got the cut look. You know what I mean? I wondered. I was like, what kind of guy? I saw some of the past episodes. You know, you insisted on putting on a real shirt today for me. But I did see you busting out the tank and just like unashamedly doing it. And I did smell some of that. It was like walking past an Abercrombie.
I might have given Joe some armpit pheromones accidentally before the show wearing a tank top. But I assure you that was just my setup outfit, my setup uniform.
That's true.
I want to make sure that the pure sexual desire that you know originates from these armpits that doesn't get out too much. You know, the show gets distracting. It's a whole thing.
So tell me more about this job. I'm very interested to...
They also had very specific dress codes. You could only wear flip-flops or Converse All-Stars. Not like Converse basketball shoes. Like, you had to wear Converse All-Stars or some sort of flip-flop. And they would pull that move where they had like a company guideline in the break room, and they would show, we would like, if you did show your underwear at the top of your jeans, or if your underwear did peek out, if they were like boxer briefs, like they had this like shirtless model on the paper that they were like pseudo dictating your wardrobe with. They were showing what kind of underwear you could even wear or should wear if you were to pick an underwear. It makes no sense to me now. I don't understand how this could even happen. But back then they were like, yeah, they did have hard and fast rules, i.e. the flip-flop and Converse All-Star thing. But then they also had like the suggestions, like the type of underwear to wear.
Oh, wow.
Pretty fucking insane.
I didn't know that Les Wexner also owned Abercrombie and Fitch.
Les Wexner?
Sorry to
Is
bring
this
it.
a Hollister investor? No.
No, Les Wexner was, you know, he's the guy who got Epstein his job. And so we don't have to go down that. But all I'm going to try to say is...
I've been looking for a Pizzagate expert to have on the...
I'm not a Pizzagate expert.
I'm not
even... I guess what I'm trying to say is like, you know, like it's just like you look at these things again. And what sucks to me...
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I was a young man at the time. I was 19.
Okay, you
Might
were...
a little older for Alexis' taste, possibly, depending on his...
So I was curious, did they have like... My point is like any boss be like, what kind of underwear are you wearing? Like
weird shit.
It's some weird shit.
They also, you couldn't have facial hair. I think you had to shave at the time. And there was banned colors. You couldn't wear certain colors. Wow. I want to say you couldn't wear the color orange. Like there were just ones that were like, you have to pick earthy tones. We want you to wear browns. We want you to wear greens.
It's like a gang.
It's like a gang.
I mean? So this is another thing, is just like looking back. We're talking about eras. We're kind of like transcending these different epochs, I guess you could say.
If we're going to do anything, it's going to be transcending this whole episode.
I mean, never-ending becoming, the existential unfolding of the self. I mean,
thank you.
Look, I wrote a lot of art history essays, man. You could overdose on that type of stuff. Oh yeah, so we're talking about the phenomenology of perception by Merleau-Ponty. The florid descriptions of, you know, the French are a limitation for English translations. You have to learn French in order to understand it fully.
My new goal is going to be to invent an English word each podcast we do here moving forward, just to keep up with some of the French ornateness that us Americans can only dream of striving towards. Yeah.
So you're becoming a word designer?
Wordsmith.
Oh.
But that's just because my name is James Smith Grattan, so it's more of a branding thing. Wordsmith.
Does it follow kind of like a needs assessment model where you have to like establish like, okay, there's an absence, there's a need for a word to describe X, Y, and Z, and then you have to like design it to fit it? Or is it more of like the word gets developed and you plug and play into something you find?
Damn. You know, I almost feel like the question about the process is more interesting than the explanation for the process, but let me still give you one. I get shit-faced on white Bacardi, clear Bacardi, and then talk with 5 other people about what the funniest word would be, and then it just picked based off of the largest laugh. That's how it goes. Yeah, it's purely that. And it can be just, it can actually be an existing word that someone just says funny. Like nothing.
Nothing?
Which is nothing.
I see.
It's usually nothing. But if you're, you're drinking clear Bacardi and you're shit-faced and that gets the biggest laugh, then this episode is now about nothing.
That's true. I used to, some of my art would be about when I'd run out of ideas. I do these like really strange drawings in my sketchbook, which is very odd. I do like a scribble and then like think what that scribble would look like, and then I develop it into what I thought it reminded me of. And then I would put like nonsense words on there. So I used to call this series Nunner Bluntifcus. And it was like this kind of nonsense poetry, just be these like different words.
That's not nonsense. I thought I saw an excerpt of this on Studeloffen Endereier, the YouTube show.
What is this?
Studeloffen Endereier?
I don't even know the name of it.
It's great. No, it's a great show. I saw a highlight of what you're describing on that show.
Oh.
I somehow.
It's like, I think it's probably like maybe if somebody did it, I feel like it's overly reliant on like Germanic, you know what I mean? Like, things.
Orally reliant.
Yeah.
I need a minute for that one.
Yes. It's probably from like a Tiger Woods testimony. Be like, I'm addicted to sex and I'm orally reliant.
I thought it would be something with how like Trump didn't have to end up doing any of his own testimony in his impeachment.
Oh.
Like, actually, with my lawyers, I'm orally reliant upon them for the proceedings, so it's not fair for me to come speak to the Congress.
Yes. I mean...
but back to the drawings, the sketches that you would start, find a finish for, and then attach words to or ascribe words to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
this is a real thing you did do. I've been bullshitting.
This is legit. I mean, I as an artist though, like this is kind of a serious idea that I do have is like I was really interested in like even what you're talking about with like getting drunk and like getting a reaction off of a piece of nonsense, right?
Right.
But it's nonetheless nonsense that you put into the world. So I was really interested in this idea that a lot of people have this preconception about art as it doesn't matter, right? It's immaterial. It's not real, right? It's like if it's fantasy, it's indulgent, it's masturbatory, But what's interesting to me, though, is that, I was always like a more chemistry-minded person. But I was like, you know what? Let's say you look, even at this experience, right? Like me observing you is actually altering the physical location of all the atoms in my brain and my body. That's a form of sculpture, right? Like,
Ooh, I fucking love it. I love it. Sculpting with neurons.
Right. Like, it's not about the picture, right? So I called this like post-synapse painting. Like, I'm not interested in what the painting is. I'm interested in manifesting chemical changes in your brain, right? That you actually, what's fascinating too is like, even if you went in and tried to change them, you probably couldn't. So it's like it's a frightening thing when you think about like, there's a lot of things we'd probably like to erase, but the thing is like there's something very physical and tangible about like witnessing something. Yeah. And it's unerasable, right? And there's all these layers on it.
The second you get someone's eyeballs on an idea, in some way the idea has won. Just by showing that it is valid for that idea to be at the table, to come across someone's eyesight, to pass through maybe their ocular nerve into their brain or through their reticular formation, maybe to have sensory processing. Is this relevant information? Is this not relevant information? It is processed. Exactly. It is still processed. And whether or not it ends up being like one of the front-running elements of your conscious mind or whether it just stays in the background, stays under that ocean of ideas that you do have, it remains to be seen, right? Maybe it's just a repetition thing. The more it comes up, the increased the prominence becomes. It might be that someone is planting a seed with an idea, or it might be that someone is giving the final watering to this idea that's now finally ready to sprout in your mind, which is what happened, I'm assuming, with these tight pants and the hipster from when you worked at Subway.
It totally crystallized and precipitated out of solution into what you see now. You know, but I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, the fact that you grasp that, I feel understood.
Dude, I studied molecular and cellular biology.
Hell yeah.
And
man.
I had to take some upper level, like, neurology type courses that was actually the main crux and the main combination of cell biology, which is what my first major, in psychology. I actually had a double major, so it was psychology and molecular bio. The brain is all of that.
Right.
The brain is all of that. And actually, I mean, in terms of frontiers, that's like the sort of the last remaining, or one of the last big frontiers for humans in terms of meaning and even the science of anatomy, how brains work. You're mentioning the sculpture element, how each word you throw to me, you know, maybe either increases the connection to a neuron or connects to a new neuron, right? Like gives me a new web in my brain.
Right.
Calling it sculpture, I think it's fascinating. Fucking fascinating, yeah.
Well, I mean, think about it this way. I mean, if you're skeptical and you're like, oh no, these are just electrical impulses, like communicated through like chemical messengers, even though the molecules like maybe move a couple things, like they just bounce around like super balls, like they're not staying there. But it's like, yo, man, E equals MC squared, bro. Like it's all the same shit. You know what I mean? I mean, look, I mean, my point is like some scientist is gonna look at me weird, like I'm talking about like auras and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just like, wait a second, like don't get too narrow into your field, you know, to be like, all right, no, man, like it doesn't make that quantum leap. Like you're talking about, like it's not fair. You're changing the playing field. I'm like, yo,
even quantum states don't jive well with the current playing field for brain psychology.
Yeah, I'm not pretending to be an expert, but I think that really what I'm most interested in is using that as a metaphor for helping people break out of their insistence on concrete assertions. Right? Like, this is a silly example, but like think of all of the logical arguments in whether it's a mathematical proof or an argument you're trying to make logically. Think of them as those platforms in Crash Bandicoot that like you can step on them, but you got to jump before they dissolve.
I love it. Yeah.
Right. Like it's something that is, I think that people are so afraid to accept, and it comes at a price, but I think that it's a fascinating aspect about what propels creativity. There's different words for it, but versus like design. Design is all about like that funnel. Like we have all this chaos, we're filtering out the best result. It's optimized, efficiency. There's an internal logic. But I think like creativity is more aligned with like that expansive nature, closer to entropy than it is about, and what we call art. Its function is closer to like illustrated entropy as opposed to providing a solution. It's an insistence that there's still chaos out there because our society tries to sell us security, concrete solutions, like that's what I'm really interested in. I'm not saying
well, it's hard to sell shirts, they're black and white colors when everything is truly gray, right? To put it extremely simply.
Yeah, exactly.
And thinking about the way you mentioned never ending becoming, this idea that let's use entropy, because even entropy is very useful and is used in science. They try to quantify entropy in a way. And you mentioned illustrated entropy. You can't illustrate anything that's not real, and a lot of times entropy can be a perspective. People use the word entropy or think of chaos or think of sort of like a rough cut. Like
my man Ian Malcolm.
It's not in a way a reality.
Jurassic Park, bro. Chaos theory. Sorry.
No.
I want to get one of those leather jackets. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Is he the guy Jeff Goldblum plays this guy? Yeah.
Sorry.
No, the new one's coming out, so I'm glad. Do you know the new name? Can we plug the new movie? Is that possible?
I don't know it. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I heard that Jurassic Park was one of the first movies to start shooting post-COVID in the new Hollywood world. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I did cut you off. So
illustrated entropy. That's all that there is really is trying to to come up with a snapshot. And then a lot of times it does get categorized, but we are just a series of snapshots. There are just a series of those elements. The difference between design and creativity. Do you think design is for the 51% and creativity is for the 49%? Does that question make sense? Is design just, you mentioned the funnel, how design is according to maybe, put this through, look at Avogadro's number, or look at,
yeah.
look at the golden ratio. Do you think design is intentionally for the masses and creativity is intentionally for the 49%, for the people who don't see that 51% perspective?
Well, it's a fascinating argument because I know we've kind of talked about like economics, but we just hinted that it might be an interesting conversation to have. But like when you think about it in terms of entropy, I think like, here I am thinking of what's that guy with the small face who opened up the RNC the other day?
It's Donald Trump Jr.?
No. Yeah.
Small face.
No, it's
Open up
Charlie Kirk. Okay. His whole thing, is
I don't
the
know who Charlie...
Western civilization. He's this conservative creep that he runs an organization called Turning Point USA, which is effectively mocked.
Okay, I got that. Yeah, Turning Point.
Through their subreddit Toilet Paper USA.
You mean Chucky Kirk?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck Chucky Kirk.
Yeah, but I mean, I think what's interesting is how, I think it's probably for both sides. It's interesting to me how it's leveraged, right? Like, for example, his whole idea is leveraging the narrative that, chaos is a bad thing, and it's represented by the other, right? And Western civilization is under threat.
It's bullshit. Isn't chaos like the yin and the yin yang? Which one is chaos? Is that yin or yang? I can never remember.
Yeah, the chaos is taken over. I do not recall.
It's one of them though.
Yeah.
And they're trying to paint them being either the yang and Democrats being the yin, right? The
right.
chaos element.
Right.
And they're the order.
Right.
A lot of Republicans, I think, just are Republican based on mindset. They're just orderly type people. They just have like a right, for lack of a better expression, a right-wing mindset.
Right.
It's brain biology.
I would say this is the thing, is like it correlates less with their behavior and actual output with more of the way that they hope to see themselves, in the sense that they might be experiencing chaos internally at all times, but their solution is inherently fascist. Like they imagine and they project the chaos they experience onto the world and assume that all people experience the same level of pain, suffering, and bone crushing like depression. And so they are incapable of seeing what true compassion looks like. You know what I mean? Like
I do. I don't think that they're like imagining everyone having bone crushing depression and that's the reason why the playing field is already level. I think it's sort of the reverse. I think if you had to put something on the RNC, I think they're assuming everything is fine, that everything is currently orderly, especially because they're the ones in the White House right now. I think
right.
Their narrative has to go with how everything is under control with the current domain being in charge. It's tough, and it does come at odds with maybe their standard campaign message. I mean, make America great again. You kind of have to assume things are shitty right now, and
right.
You want to make it better, make America less chaotic again, sort of to this point, right?
Yeah.
But in a way, they do also have to sell that, like, they have their hand on the wheel. That the chaos would only get worse if someone like Joe Biden was in office. That things would actually deteriorate, and that then the crushing depression would come along if the left hand got to take the wheel.
Yeah, I guess I know what you mean. Like, so there's two parts of the Republican Party. There's the people who deserve to be Republicans, like the ones who actually control wealth and own capital and charge rent, right? I mean, I'm not talking about like small business in like the way of like, okay, I own a place and rent out the unit up top, right? Like I'm talking about the way the U.S. government defines a small business. 250 employees or less. I'm like, yo, that's a pretty big fucking business.
Yeah,
right?
micro businesses are like 1 to 5, right? 1 to 10. They're like weird terminology.
But I'm just like, wait a second, you're calling me a micro business, bro? You know what I
Fuck
mean?
you.
Yeah.
You said this was small business empowerment.
Yeah,
I need to hire
exactly.
30 people to be a small business.
Right. So that's the thing, is we talked about this, like, okay, I'm self-employed right now. I'm an artist. I'm freelancing, trying to connect with all these people, trying to create value, which is then used to, help, sell things or whatever, engage people. But my point is that when the people who deserve being a Republican, meaning like they have a material interest in all of the platform, okay, when they do it, it's fine. But there's so few of them that they've crafted a mentality, a packaging of propaganda that allows people who are totally broke and suffering and materially are deprived to see themselves, instead of like in need of assistance, to being, I am the master of my household and I do work hard, and if I just, keep being exploited at this rate, I will rise to the top. So that is frustrating to me in the sense that the cynical kind of propagation of this, like, in the RNC, it's clear propaganda. Like Don Jr. gives zero fucks about small business, let alone micro business, right?
One of the few things I saw from the RNC was Don Jr. speaking.
Yeah.
Him like going through his speech, the pronunciation of the words he chose. I thought it was fascinating. I gotta say, it was pretty fucking comical to me.
Yeah.
It was actually the first thing I saw and probably the longest I watched in terms of runtime on the YouTube. And by the way, I just drove through Wisconsin, which is a predominantly purple state, and I saw quite a few Donald Trump, billboards on the side. And funniest one I saw about halfway back to Chicago was Donald Trump 2020, Don Jr. 2024.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit terrifying. Terrified me at the time. But the second I saw him talk and actually like try to express his ideas, I was like, okay, this guy is a joke. This is ridiculous. He's not able to capitalize on some of the same desperation maybe you mentioned, or I think even some of the long-standing right-leaning tendencies of the Republican Party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I don't know how, we don't have to hit this hard. I think it's just, let's compare the two conversations we had back to back. We're talking about like neuroplasticity over here, and we're talking about like, these kind of, if you're a scientist evaluating data, right, you're going to see like, why can't these people vote in their own material interest?
The single issue voters. It's about abortion and Jesus.
Right, and
it's pretty,
it's
pretty much that. Guns,
right.
Guns and babies.
But what's ironic is that, I was talking with a friend who's, pretty far left, but I agree with a lot of, I'm an artist. I'm not going to lie, right? I mean, I'm not going to try to like guard who I am.
The listener has put you in the left.
I'm not going to label myself. It's just more that, okay.
So you're not a staunch... No.
No, yeah. I don't want to get into labels.
No, I hate labels too. And specifically politically, I think you're more free when you don't ascribe that left-right label to yourself. Yeah. I think you're allowed to not have that. Continue.
So what I wanted to point out, though, is we talked about the depression, right?
Yeah.
You have these, think about the education rates, literacy rates from that time. How is it that people at that time with that level of education, that level of resources, universal poverty amongst a majority of the country, how were they smart enough to recognize the value in organizing for labor, or organizing to make utilities public, right? How were they smart enough without a college degree to understand how that benefited them? Right?
I think the game has gotten more complicated. The social game as it relates to your political life, where you find yourself in the community. I do think it's gotten more difficult and more disconnected, which is not, served the Joe Six-Pack every man.
Right. I mean, I think the other part too is like, it gets into like, my point is like, I don't even really know how much I've been, changed in my perspective on certain things, but I do find that when it comes to like issues like race, or you could also ascribe it to, things like abortion, like social issues. I was always kind of on the bandwagon of that, but I remember going to this. I presented at a curriculum symposium. It's kind of like an idea of like creating radical and liberatory curriculum in education, and there were these radical lesbian people talking about Israel, which at the time had been one of the first countries to openly legalize gay marriage. But at the same time, they were kind of undergoing a lot of like conservative, neoliberal economic changes.
And probably annexation, right?
Right. Exactly.
Parts of the Middle East.
So their concern was to say, legalizing gay marriage doesn't cost anything to the government and to the capital class, right? It doesn't cost anything. They don't have to invest in anything. They just have to say, okay, all right, you can have it.
Right.
Right? It's such a demeaning thing. And the other thing that's ironic about it is like, they didn't just say like, okay, sexuality is a spectrum and, all forms of expression need to be evaluated with subtlety. No, they made like this one exception, like, oh, well, I guess if you're willing to embrace family values, but it's just, a gay marriage, we'll do that. So the radical community, like exploring some of these concepts, which I think you see bubbling up right now, is kind of left in the lurch when they see that the movement and the activism that was propelled by, a little bit more open-minded people was then co-opted and made mainstream by virtue of kind of cramming it into a more conventional nuclear family concept as opposed to embracing it as it was.
And I just have to try to tie this together. What started out maybe as more of what would be considered a creative way of thinking was designed to fit the masses.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like it had to be sort of be polished or shaved down so that people could like jam it down their gullet.
Yeah.
If possible, let's use this as a transition to talking about your art and the way you view yourself, considering the fact that you spent a lot of time as an art educator and how you're still an art educator with your YouTube page, Art with Anderson, and how I would say your ideas about creation or about expression have changed at different stages of your life, maybe from art school to the period when you were maybe the propagator of artistic expression for people in school, to now where it's maybe still a goal of yours, where you still want people to be able to have this neuroplasticity and think freely and realize how, the deep connection and everything.
Yeah.
How do you paint that picture? If I could use that. No, do you have a succinct like thoroughfare as to how all that fits together?
Yeah, I mean,
or has it changed?
I mean, it's definitely changed in the way of, it's definitely influenced my politics. We don't have to go that road, but as an artist, I think what I'm most interested in now is, like you said, I think there's an accessibility issue, right? Like speaking to people on their terms. And one of the foundations of education and designing curriculum is about assessing the prerequisite understandings before you try to teach them a higher concept, right? So what are people coming to the table with? What do they need to learn in order to understand a higher level thing, right?
Right, which always leaves the most accelerated student maybe be feeling a little bored, which also leaves maybe the student who's far behind feeling a little lost. There's always going to be this catch-up to regression to the mean.
Right, and so there's really fascinating models in the education world, I think, that at least open your eyes to some of those concerns. But when it comes to connecting with an audience, right, like having something, that you can connect, it's like, carbs, fat and protein, right? Like, what do you have in that mix? I think there's an important part of that blend. But I think what, I was so concerned about when I was in my early 20s, and while I was teaching, I actually even ran a gallery for 2 years on Chicago Avenue, lived in a storefront and tried to make that happen.
Oh, wow.
And, I was making this really ambitious, abstract, chaotic work. And I was hoping that people would tie that with what we just talked about, right? It was not only just like a little jump. It was just light years, right?
Do you have the neurons I have?
Right.
Do you have some of the neurons I have?
Right.
I can connect a few more of these for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is while that kind of existed on a plane by itself, and I don't disavow that strategy or that work, I think it was just more with my audience who supported me and could appreciate the idea of it. I think the engagement level wasn't authentic in a way that, like, when I paint a picture of somebody's favorite hot dog stand in Chicago, somebody can connect with their own experience as an entryway into seeing it again in this painting that is different than their experience, right? So they're a little bit different, like a different direction. Whereas here I was trying to go like, hey man, here's pure chaos. Can you handle it, bro?
Right.
To here's something that you already know, and I've jazzed it up in a different way, and I'm trying to carry you along and engage you in a way that I'm interested in hearing what you have to share about that. And I think it's just more of what I'm interested, you know, I don't mean to make it political, but I think it's just like, I'd call it material. Like a hot dog place, you know, when I'm out front painting, you know, of Red Hot Ranch on Western Avenue, and I got 5 or 6 people come up to me during the session, right? And it's not like, they're like, oh, do you sell these? I'm like, yeah, how much? Can I give you $50? I'm like, sorry, man, like, I can't.
To be honest, like, $50 for street paintings, you're doing well. I wouldn't. A lot of people probably 20 is the max, you know.
Right, and it's not to
Hamilton's one thing, Grant's another. I mean.
Right, and it's not to say that that's wrong.
Jackson to Grant.
But I think to the idea about like design for the masses, right? Like, there's an economic implication to these things, like, right? Like,
well, then I think there's a lot of value to coming to where someone's familiar and then incepting the idea. You know, like getting it to where someone is open and ready. I think that's why I like uninterrupted and unedited podcasts generally.
Sure.
Is because I want to show that I'm not trying to use gloss or something to sort of get an idea in here or to, you know, subvert your comfort level right now.
Sure.
The hot dog stand thing, specifically being in Chicago, I mean, hot dogs mean so much. Hot dogs not only, and I don't know if this, I'm going to start just talking, telling you what your art means or what your recent chosen thing means.
That's what I love.
I feel like hot dogs are incredible because there's that episode of The Simpsons where Homer and Marge's marriage is in trouble and she leaves him frozen hot dogs, and it's like an omen for how their marriage is falling apart, and the best he can get is like a frozen hot dog. But to me and to a lot of people, obviously hot dogs are also day at the ball game. You're out, you mentioned hot dog stands, like hot dog carts. When people are like enjoying a summer day, the weather's great, you're able to see a lot of people. You pick up a hot dog almost as a way to eat quickly. You know, like to make sure that you have the most amount of time with your friends at the beach, and that you don't spend a lot of time over the grill, you know, getting a perfect ribeye versus just quickly, you know, getting the hot dog done over charcoal.
Sure.
So hot dogs can take you through all these different emotions, but yeah, why wouldn't you want to get to the table at someone where they're happy, they're thinking of summer, they're excited, they're open maybe to new things, people trying things in the summer, people meeting new people in the summer. Hot dogs have that ability to bring you there, right?
Yeah.
But they also still have the scariness. When money's tight and you have to have a hot dog,
right?
Or when you don't have buns, but you're eating hot dogs on Wonder Bread or something, you know, one of those emergency dinner type
the
nights.
Bachelor innovations. Yeah. Well, but you get at something, and I'm glad you made that connection, because the thing is like, there's a group of painters called the Ash Can School, and I'm not sure if you're familiar, but one of the most prominent was George Bellows. And it was like, I think it was around the turn of the century, like 1890s maybe. And they were like kind of impressionistic, but instead of portraying, you know, traditionally wealthy people and these idyllic landscapes, they kind of like focused on the suffering and like kind of when they say Ash Can School, it was all about the grit of the city, right? And kind of even just expressing like the street level view of life. I'm interested more and more in that, because I think that what's so interesting to me is like, how can this like powerful, joyful memory from childhood of like going to a hot dog stand with someone that I love, like gloss over the fact that I never really thought about how dumpy the place was or how dirty, you know, non-hygienic it was, right? I mean, it's just, it has all these layers of like class, of, you know, economics, real estate, and neighborhoods. And the fact that these old school staples of neighborhoods are now disappearing says something about what, you know, we call urban renewal or gentrification really means, right? Like, there's all these people that may have grew up eating hot dogs, but would never go to Ducks on Ashland Avenue and be like, it's a totally.
It can change.
Yeah.
It can go away. I mentioned before we started the podcast that there was a hot dog stand near where I live that claimed it was one of the only 2 hot dog stands still in existence. Hot dog carts, I gotta imagine, are a different ball game,
right?
And it goes double with places like Wolfie's or places that are more established.
I need to know about Wolfie's. I've never been.
Jeff's Red Hots on Cicero. Is this helping out that area?
You got to give me a list, man. Yeah. I mean, I got so many, like, people have been throwing to me. I mean, it's amazing. There's a whole hot dog head community out there. I never realized
hot dog
it.
heads. Hot dog heads unite. But that's a lot of the beauty of talking about art that people want to talk about.
Just completed 1 hour of the never-ending becoming.
or getting an art that people are interested in. I don't know if this is exactly the same, but I remember at some point when I was getting into Instagram a few years ago, or enjoying the process of posting things, sharing things again. I had previously been a little quiet on the platform. I started using a lot of tags, specifically because I didn't want it to be like a selfish post where I was just getting likes out of it, where
Sure.
I was posting a lot of plant-related matter. So if I was like posting a specific specimen of a plant, I wanted people who liked, Monstera deliciosa or whatever to be able to click on that and then see the plant that they were interested in, and how tagging hashtags, which at the time it was a fucking joke to me. It was a total fucking joke using hashtag. At the times it felt more selfish all of a sudden to not use hashtags than it was to use hashtags, because then the post was for other people, was accessible to other people, sort of like, putting it in someone's wheelhouse all of a sudden, or allowing the hot dog bridge to actually happen, right?
Yeah.
So people could have some sort of connection with what it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of touched on something we're both interested in, and, just using like YouTube as a specific platform, or, podcasting, creating content. You just hear so much about this idea of like content being the true form of value. Whether you're talking about a new streaming service, it's more about the talent they attract or whatever.
Yeah.
The terms they offer. But I would be curious, even for you, is there anything? Have you learned anything or come to be frustrated by anything about like kind of making the deliberate choice to participate and start building something? Has it changed your view of social media in any way?
It definitely does, because you're not blind to how those mediums are set up, where people are liking things that are more extreme, right? You can't deny that things that are speaking stronger, that have stronger headlines, that have tags, that are a little bit stronger in terms of the word choice, that those are going to come to the forefront. I think it would matter to me more if I felt like it was important for me for my items right now to be found, and for the work that I created to be located by someone. Right now I'm working on it in a way still to make sure I can actually come up with good work, not to just make sure it's accessible or that it's marketed well. So I haven't been too crazy I haven't driven myself too crazy with how social media is. You look at like retention times on YouTube, whether or not people are actually sticking around for things. That's got to change.
Yeah.
How you think and feel about it. Even if I'm saying I want 1 hour of uninterrupted conversation, when you see the average retention time is 5 minutes, it makes you think about the other 55 minutes that you spent 3 hours uploading in perfect 1080p quality to YouTube, right?
Right. Well, I mean, it's I don't know about this, and something about what I love about the idea of like the live emergence is it's changing the aesthetic and the expectations for content for people. I think podcasts did a lot of that legwork, but
It did.
The unedited acceptance is way up.
It is, and it's kind of fucked up, because I'm not blind to the fact that you actually do want things curated and edited, and you don't want your time being wasted by all these people on iMovie who have no interest in making something of real value for your time. But I'm just so fucking desperate for the authenticity. I don't care. I'm willing to sit through, some of the bad jokes and some of the moments that, could have made the cutting room floor, just because I want to see that scar, along with the prize fight.
Well, actually, that brings up an important topic, James. I want to try to sell you a subscription to vidIQ. are you optimizing your search terms and hashtags? No, I mean,
Do you use stuff like that?
I tried. I mean,
I've had friends who have bought thousands of Instagram followers and who who just to game the algorithms and play with how things are set up right now.
Yeah,
Jump on TikTok because this is where people are gaining followers, right? Use that medium. I personally don't give a shit about YouTube, and everything I create could just as easily be on Vimeo or, name the pixel provider at this point.
Right.
Do you feel specific about YouTube or maybe Instagram with the way you share still work? Do you feel like that's influenced you or somehow pushed you down a certain route?
Yeah, a couple of things come up. I mean, number one is like I could come across as like, oh, why aren't people liking my stuff? It's like, what's crazy to me is it's not necessarily that's the gripe. YouTube, I get, like, there's a whole ecosystem, and I'm not out there putting out extreme takes on everything.
Right.
To play that game,
3 days a week, perfectly on average.
Right.
Every.
And the other thing that people ignore is the thing is like, oh, I'm going to put out a Joe Rogan style 3-hour talk show format, and people are just going to be attracted to that authenticity. But they ignore the idea that they were a celebrity and came with an audience prior to that, which all of the doubts about buying into or trusting that person have been put aside. And so similar to the hot dog paintings, like building trust and building that like true currency and audience, like it takes real time because, for example, I had my second video ever posted. So I started making YouTube videos when I was a teacher, making tutorials, not for the public, but just for my classroom. So
straight functional.
Yeah. I wouldn't have to hear the same question over and over. I say, go to minute 2:33 on the tutorial, right?
That's amazing. Yeah.
And it had an amazing impact. And like, it's affected my ideas about, how to optimize education. But my point is the second video I made, worst quality. I even had this like bogus voice, like, here we are on Art with Anderson, blah, blah, blah. It only lasted for the first like 1 minute, and then I just totally like collapsed into my normal voice. But this video, within the first month, got 10,000 views.
Wow.
But what
That's
did
funny.
I have is I had, talk about gaming and algorithm, I had a captive audience of 127 students in my classroom that when I released the video, I had like, and they all watched it more than once for the assignment. So I had
God, that's so
right?
funny.
I had like 900 views when I'd like release a video, and so it'd get this huge spike, right? Like as if it was like some guy, with a following going live with his video. And what's crazy to me about it is that, this one video has like almost 80,000 views, right?
Yeah.
So, but what's funny about like the vidIQ and all these people trying to sell you stuff. So, this thing had brought in so many watch hours. You're trying to get monetized. You're like, I need that 4,000 hours and, 1,000 followers, like to make, 10 cents a week on ads, right?
You're like, maybe if I held some sort of auditorium style presentation at school,
Right.
got all 900 kids to click on this at the same time.
Dude, it
Acted like it was a team building exercise.
You know what's funny though is the kids loved it. They were like, Mr. A, you should give away slime. You should do a giveaway. And I was like, oh yeah, first person to comment on the video gets slime. So I bought like a gallon of Elmer's glue and made a bunch of slime. And like kids like started making posters and like advertising. So like now I have like, basically 80% of the school would like subscribe or at least tune in and watch these videos when they come out.
That's great.
Because I was the only guy doing it in the school. But my point is that, once I left teaching and didn't have that kind of captive audience and that use, I think it makes you realize like that whole world of that digital content creation model is. And like, yeah, if you can scam it into getting over 500, 800 views in the first, week of it being out there, like you're going to show up somewhere.
It gets hooked by some algorithm,
Right. And the funny thing is like
Midwest Hot Ones,
yeah,
500 plus this week.
I subscribe to that vidIQ and they're like, if you take your top performing video and the thumbnail sucks, like, you should change the thumbnail. And like, so I changed the thumbnail, and now all of a sudden, like, my click-through went from like 5% down to like 1.2.
Hilarious.
Right? And
Hilarious.
like, now I'm out of orbit. You know what I mean? It's like, oh no. My only
My
performing
thumbnail.
video. Yeah.
That was it. God, I didn't know that was it.
Right. So.
Well, I think the only solution is for you to record more videos in that voice that you were mentioning earlier, so
Maybe
that
that's
people
it.
feel comfortable clicking on through.
Yeah.
Keeping it 5 to 7%.
Yeah. Hey there. This is Mr. Anderson telling you how to draw a horse with big old teeth. Take a bite out of crime.
Your channel is very useful because it has not only specific things you can learn how to draw or emulate, but it has sort of building blocks. Like I remember seeing how to draw a sphere, right? How to draw like certain shadings and textures, gradients, so that you can, I'm assuming, so you can build off and do other things. Was that purely based off of your teaching time, or is that like an intentional choice to kind of give people keys to the castle so they can let themselves in as artists? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's fascinating about it is, like, because I had a double payoff of, like, you spend all this time producing, editing this stuff, right? And it takes a lot of time and effort, right? Yeah. But I got a double payback when I put it in the classroom because it made my job easier, right?
Yeah.
I used to joke that my job was to, like, automate myself out of existence, right? Like,
I think all honest employees should be doing that
Yeah.
to some degree. They should sort of like be like inching to the exit
Right.
while like writing Excel scripts
Yeah.
and producing videos.
But I think what's interesting, though, is, like, once that double payoff, like, came away from, I released a tutorial, my original theory was, like, oh, I bet a bunch of other middle school art teachers want an explainer video on how to do this assignment. Right? And so I'm sure I could probably target those people more, but it kind of just became my MO, and I stuck with what I knew, and
Yeah.
I just assumed that all people looking at art content were wanting to come there to learn. What's fascinating about it, as you probably know, is, like, you really have to get to know what your audience, when they log on, what are they looking for, right? Do they want laughs? Do they want entertainment? Are they using it to escape? Are they following along on your drawing, or are they just want to see how it's done? So
I don't know any of those things yet. I'm still so early in this process. I don't feel with any like certainty that I can answer that for people. Like I'm not exactly sure what people would watch this for, especially the random people that seem to be watching.
Hey,
Considering how few people I have told about this, like that's something that's been very interesting to me is people that find it, right, and
Right.
then like willingly continue to watch it. We have to wrap up. You heard
Yeah.
the ending thing here. I do want to ask you just very quickly about streaming live, because you mentioned you've
Yeah.
been doing like YouTube live events. How is live video creation different than this sort of format? Because I'm a broadcaster in a lot of ways. This is 1 hour interview. It can go up that minute, or I can edit it sort of funkily like I do and then set it up later. Same thing for the jam journals. Like it's an improvised jam recorded in one
Right.
session, and then it goes up. So I'm deeply into broadcasting, but I haven't done the actual YouTube live broadcasting element yet. How do you feel like that changed the type of stuff you made?
well, I think it was partially, I did 2 weeks of every day doing a live stream. Part of it was, like, for my own self during lockdown to have something to focus on.
Yeah.
But what I will say about it is my biggest limitation, whenever I'd hit a slump of production, was because of editing. I mean,
Oh God, yeah.
for someone with my mind, the idea of having a lot of options it's not always a good thing.
Paradox of choice. I'm very into this. Yeah.
Right? Like same thing with, like, digital artwork. I'm much more efficient and fast when I draw on paper
Right.
because I have to commit, right? There's no, and what's interesting is I, like, hallucinate, like, a Control Z sometimes when I'm, I'll do this, you know what I mean? Like, when I'm drawing after doing a lot of digital work, right? So when it comes to live, what I like about it is I think it forces authenticity.
Yeah.
It's much more about connecting with your audience and maintaining it. And then on top of that, the burden of editing is by the wayside. And I think, for example, like Twitch deals with it in an interesting way. Is like they won't even keep your
Yeah, what do they do?
videos on unless you like pay for the storage. So if you-
Really?
right. So like there's they admit that like, hey, this is live, and so it probably won't hold up in 6 months, right? There's no back catalog. And so what's interesting,
I didn't even know that about Twitch. That's interesting. Makes sense though.
yeah, I mean, I think if you get to a certain tier or if you pay, they'll do it. But I think they've kind of embraced the Zen format, which I think is going to be fascinating to see what direction this takes, because it makes the stakes lower and it's less about high production. It's more about expression.
And it's fucked up because I do want both. Like, I want to be the type of creator that can create and create and create and then condense down to something that I'd be very excited to show someone.
Sure.
And the next project I work on is probably going to be more akin to that than the type of stuff I have been working on. But, you know, mentioning my desperation to hear authenticity earlier, I definitely think that's still very much of the times.
Yeah.
Joe, thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. Before we go, I do want to give you this gift. We were talking about working on paper. I don't know if it's...
Major fan of the paper medium. I actually write a lot of the titles on paper. I use like Sharpie on paper. Use photos, video of it.
Yes. Here, I'll walk this over. I might have to give you... Hold on.
I'm psyched. Oh my God. Look at this. Beautiful depiction. This is amazing, man. You made this? I mean, of course, you had to have made this.
Yeah, so this afternoon I kind of whipped that up.
Jesus.
But,
This is like my most recent episode, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Rocking the beard. You did just do this topically.
Yes.
Just recently.
Yeah, this was today.
Oh my God.
Before I showed up. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I appreciate you having me on, taking the time to hear me out. I'm trying to get off. I just want to talk to authentic people, man. I'm stuck in my tower, you know.
Don't we all in Corona? No,
Right.
I was happy we had the chance. Obviously, we'll have to do it again. You know,
Yeah.
check in with the Art with Anderson saga at a different period
Yes.
in your development. But do you have anything you would? We don't have all the same exact friends. So if I happen to have some people that watch this, do you have anything you want to convey about your YouTube page or about other ways in which you like to create outside of this?
Yeah.
As you can see, genius right here.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you very much, by the way.
If you want to check out my YouTube, it's Art with Anderson, and also on Instagram is primarily where I put out new work. My website has been in development, but my next project is really to be working on this hot dog project, and I'm hoping to maybe turn it into like a coffee table book, you know.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
It's going to take a little while. These paintings are moving slower than I thought, you know what I mean? But it's fun. So I'm hoping to take advantage of the summer, get a few more, including some of your recommendations on there for the.
I was gonna say we're at the talk offline about those. Yeah, but I'll make sure we get the addendum to the book at least completed with some new hot dog locations. Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Until next
really
time.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye, guys.